What is your sense? Because the macro really seems to be buzzing yet again and changing for the positive. Do you see all of this now supporting crude?
Well, good afternoon or good morning, Manisha. You know, when you think about it, who would have thought, put your mind back a couple of months ago, that we'd be at record highs as far as US stock indices? And that's carrying the world up. So there seems to be a very good, positive feel. S&P's at 3,040 just on it. And you've got gold sitting at 1,500. So there's a degree of risk out there, and we're seeing interest rates tumbling all across the world with central banks, yet we've got growth numbers, and as far as crude's concerned, it seems to be, very much range-bound across this current landscape.
So, Peter, of the 1.2 million barrels that the OPEC and allies are cutting, that is scheduled until March 2020. And then, of course, on 5th and 6th of December, there's a review meeting also where the OPEC Secretary General has been talking on how they are looking for all the data to come in by December. And that is what they would be sitting on to decide a strategy for 2020. How much weight would you put on all of these statements and speculations?
Well, I feel as though, first off, we've got to see what goes on in the next month as far as US cuts. And if we see a rate cut in the next matter of days or a week or so leading into November as far as interest rates, then that really puts, I think, more impetus to say that you're going to see further cuts across other central banks, which in turn is going to be, in some ways, you've got an economic slowdown, and in other ways, they're trying to prime the pump. And it still comes down to what are we going to see as far as price and headline number. I really think that it's going to continue to be range-bound. I don't think you're going to see a breakout unless you see something dramatic happen from a geopolitical stance or weather outages or something really to say, hey, OPEC are going to cut by a couple of million barrels. And I don't think that's going to be the case, Manisha. So, again, it's just very much a wait and see, conscious of what happens on the 5th and 6th of December. But at the present time, I think traders are just, very much wary as far as, all those moving parts.
Oh, yes. Peter, what is your sense on how would you look at the crude oil prices now for the remainder couple of months for 2019, and how do you look at 2022?
Okay, first off, if you look at, you think of Brent, we've seen such big price moves over that past year. We're sitting at around about $52 to $76 has been the price movement. And we're now right in the middle of that, at that $61, $62. So I feel as though that gives the traders some sort of an idea of what you see in a year, not unusual. And in the present time, I feel as though, again, it'll be fairly range-bound because I don't think there's going to be any dramatic news. You could see a bit of good news as far as trade talks, but that seems to be also an unknown. We've got the Brexit being pushed out. We've got the other side as far as the Hong Kong and what's happening there as far as China growth numbers. So, Manisha, there's nothing really there to say I'm going to see crude jump $10 or collapse $10. I'm not trying to sound as though it's a dead set or it's a dead point, but there just doesn't seem to be enough there to really drive traders. There are other markets moving.